Hi everyone, my name is Melissa van Dijk, and in today's video I want to show you what I mean when I talk about cooking with real foods and how you can create very simple and affordable meals at home without needing a lot of ingredients or complicated recipes. So here I have some rice, then I also picked up some potatoes and sweet potatoes, and these are basically going to make up the largest part of the meals. For the vegetables, I have some green long beans, tomatoes, broccoli, cauliflower and a carrot. And then I also have some eggs. And with just these foods, we can already create several different meals. So I'm just going to prepare everything now and show you how simple this actually is. Okay, so I'm going to start with the rice, and I'm cooking it in the rice cooker. But before I put it in there, I need to wash it first. I usually use around 70 to 80 grams dry, so I'm going to put that in here, rinse it a few times, and then add the water. I also add just a very small pinch of salt to the water and mix it around so it gets evenly distributed. For this rice, I use roughly twice as much water as rice. So once that's in there, I can simply close the rice cooker and let that cook. Then for the other meals, I'm going to use the potatoes and sweet potatoes. I wash them first, and I personally cook both of them with the skin on. You can obviously eat the skin as well if you enjoy it, but I usually just remove it while I'm eating because I don't really like it. And I'm going to cut the potatoes into chunks because they cook a little bit faster that way. And I'll leave the sweet potato whole, as it's not that big. You could also steam or boil them whole if you wanted to, but obviously that takes quite a bit longer, so cutting them into smaller pieces, if they are very large, just makes everything a little bit faster. Okay, so these can go into the steamer, and I'm going to put them on for around 35 minutes. And while those are steaming, I can prepare all the vegetables. So here I have the long beans, cauliflower, broccoli and carrot, as well as tomatoes. So I peel the carrot, cut everything into smaller pieces like this, separate the broccoli and cauliflower a little, and then I just wash everything together. The beans and tomatoes don't really need much preparation at all. And once everything is washed and prepared, I just put it into the other tray of the electric steamer and let everything steam until it is soft and ready to eat. Then I'm also going to add the eggs, but I don't put those directly in there. I just wait until there are about 10 minutes left. And then I simply place the eggs into the steamer as well and let them cook together with everything else. That way, by the time the potatoes, sweet potatoes and vegetables are finished, the eggs are ready too. And basically the whole meal has been cooking at the same time. And that is basically already it. There really isn't much more to the cooking part than that. You're mostly just heating and softening the food so that it becomes ready to eat and in many cases easier to digest. So it's really lazy cooking, so to speak. And once everything is finished, we can basically just put the meals together, however we want. Here, for example, I'm using the rice as the base, and then I added some beans, carrots, cauliflower and broccoli. For the next one, I used the sweet potato, then added some carrots, cauliflower, broccoli and eggs. And for the last plate, I used the potatoes chunks with some beans, cauliflower, broccoli and tomato. So you can already see that you really don't need a huge number of ingredients. I'm basically using the same foods in slightly different combinations. And you can obviously mix and match them however you want, depending on what you like. And obviously, these are just some examples of how I personally like to combine them. So you absolutely don't have to make these exact plates. And what I also really like about cooking the food this way is that it comes out soft and moist already. So I don't feel the need to pour oil, butter, dressing or sauces over everything afterward just to make it enjoyable. There's a little bit of salt in the rice if I want it, but otherwise these meals are very minimally salted. And there are no added oils or extra fats. The foods already have their own flavors, so I personally really enjoy eating them like this. And then on the side, or as a dessert so to speak, I'll usually have some fruit. Today I have mango because that is what is in season here right now, but it could also just easily be a banana, an orange, some pineapple, or whatever whole fruit you enjoy and happens to be affordable and available where you live. I honestly wouldn't go out of my way and buy like too expensive so-called superfoods either. I think it makes much more sense to look at what is actually in season and locally available to you and build your meals around that. The main goal is really just to eat whole foods and get used to eating real foods in a natural form rather than feeling like every meal needs to be turned into some complicated recipe, because that is where the whole problem starts. You end up changing the foods you are eating and then complain that they are not working, which is exactly what I was doing for a very long time too. I always thought, well, maybe the food is the problem, when in reality the food was almost never the issue. It was all the seasoning, sauces, salt, oils and other things I kept adding on top that were causing the problem all along. So now I try to keep the whole meal as simple as possible, and that also includes what I drink with it. Most of the time I personally just have plain water, although I do occasionally have a coffee, a soft drink or some cocoa with very little added sugar. And that is basically what I mean when I talk about eating real whole foods. You have rice, potatoes or sweet potatoes as the larger base of the meal, and then some vegetables, beans, eggs or whatever else you want to add, and a piece of fruit on the side. It's really simple, it doesn't require a huge list of ingredients, and you can change everything depending on what is affordable in season and available to where you live. And yes, that is basically how I eat on a daily basis. I hope that this gave you a better understanding of what I mean when I talk about eating and cooking with real whole foods, and also showed you how simple it can actually be. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!